Let's jump over to the other New York team now, the Giants. It's not a lot of good things going on right now. I know there was some slight improvements offensively from week 1 to week 2, but from what you have seen, and you've watched both of these games, I'm sure, what seems to be the biggest issue that's plaguing the Giants right now?
The problem is there's nothing they do consistently well. So, like the first game, they couldn't score a touchdown. The offense was a disaster. The second game, they gave up 7 field goals on 7 drives defensively. So they didn't force a single punt all game. They didn't allow a touchdown, but they didn't get any stops. So they gave up 425 yards of offense, and they didn't have the ball. The Commanders had the ball for 38 minutes of the game. So the second game, the defense failed. The special teams failed. The coaching failed the second game, and the offense was much better. So there's just nothing they can consistently count on. It's one of those situations where when one side fails, it seems like the other side does well and vice versa. It's just a team that is at a talent deficiency most games, and they need their coaching to do well, and the coaching got out-coached last game. So, like I said, it's always the other shoe's always dropping with the Giants.
Yeah, it sounds like they're lacking that term complementary football, which is so crucial in order to be a successful team. Both units, including the special teams, all 3 phases of the game have to be clicking at the same time. Now, you brought up coaching and how they have deficiencies with roster and personnel, and it is important for the coach to kind of try to overcome some of those things. But it seems like the coach has also been a part of the problem. We all, Giants fans especially, they know about the mismanagement, I guess you'd call it, with the kicker, Graham Gano, this past weekend, who went into the game with a groin injury. They knew about it prior to the game and did not elevate anybody from the practice squad. No contingency plan in place. So it's just a kind of another reminder of some of the mismanagement, maybe, a bad coaching job by Brian Daboll. And I think it's interesting because 18 months ago, he was the NFL Coach of the Year. And now he's answering questions in his post-game press conference about the future of his job. And so I guess my question to you is, how much of the responsibility does Brian Daboll, bear? How much is put on his shoulders with what we have seen here with the Giants, not only this season, but going back to last season as well?
Yeah, I mean, they're 9-19-1 in their last 29 games. So, I mean, your job's not going to be safe when that's your record in the last 29 games. So he's living off the 6-1 start he had to the playoff 2 years ago, and then a nice playoff road victory. That was the best game he's had and Daniel Jones has had. It bears a lot of responsibility. Him and Joe Shane. They always say they are a collective unit in decision making. So they were collectively celebrated in 2022, and they're going to get collectively blamed in 2024. One thing that has been repeated is the Graham Gano injury this week, or Gunnar Olszewski, the punt returner, came into the game with a groin injury in week 1. He went out for pregame warmups. He re-injured his groin. They didn't have another punt returner on the roster. Darius Slayton had to go back there, and he fumbled a punt. Last year, Graham Gano tried to kick through a knee injury. He missed 2 field goals against the Jets. One would have pretty much wrapped up a victory. He missed the 2 field goals. He had to shut it down for the season. After that, they lost the game. So, they consistently don't prepare for the worst case scenario and then act surprised when it happens, when anybody who's followed the Giants for any length of time knows the worst case scenario always happens to the Giants.
Yeah, you covered New York football for a long time. I'm sure you know the Mara family and how they like to do business. Is it possible that, is it in their DNA to make a mid-season change at head coach?
It happened, 6 years ago with Ben McAdoo when
Correct.
Things got really bad, when his locker room basically quit on him. That's what it would take. I don't see that happening, but you got to be on guard for it. There's been a lot of questions. The Giants have a very different locker room this year than they've had in the past. No Saquon Barkley to keep things together. 5 of their captains from last year are gone, or 4 are gone, and Adoree Jackson just came back, actually. So it's a very different locker room that's going to be tested. They're saying all the right things right now about pointing the thumb, not the finger, and You have guys taking the blame for the loss when it wasn't their fault, but just to send a message to other guys, like that's what we do here. So I think that's a promising sign. I'm not expecting a midseason coaching change, but I'm certainly expecting a very hot seat going all the way up through week 18.
It'll be interesting to follow it. And the Giants' schedule certainly doesn't do them any favors. Their next 6 games are against teams who made the playoffs last year and once again had winning records last year and have playoff aspirations this year. I'm talking about games against the Browns, the Seahawks, and this is in no particular order, the Steelers, Cowboys, Bengals, and Eagles. So some tough matchups coming up for the Giants here. Ryan Dunleavy, we thank you for your time. You can follow Ryan on X at RY Dunleavy. And Ryan, we appreciate the time and keep up all your great work.
Thanks for having me on.